All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. I just wanted to quickly introduce myself. My name is Corissa Wahr. I am a social worker at the Midland County Department of Health and Human Services. And today we're going to be talking about a veterans support group. On the agenda, we have a welcome and introduction, the icebreaker, the local veteran data, current veteran resources, social workers needed, how a group would be helpful, vote on if a group should be created, and then we're going to close out. So thank you everybody for coming. If we could just go around and quickly introduce ourselves and where we're from, that would be awesome. Devin, why don't we start with you?
So my name is Devin, and I am from the American Legion.
Okay. Tara?
Hi, I'm Tara. I am a counselor at Community Mental Health.
Okay, and Tyler?
Hi, everyone. I'm Tyler, and I'm a social worker from the Midland County Veterans Service Department.
Okay, awesome. So the objective of this meeting and the goal here is to determine if there's a need for a new veteran support group in Midland County. Does anybody have any questions before we start? No? Okay. And I also just want to add a quick disclaimer. If we have any questions, comments, or concerns, there is a raise hand button at the very top of your screen. If you could push that and then kind of wait to be called on and keep yourselves on mute just so we don't disturb the meeting, that would be wonderful. I'm going to continue on then. So we're going to start out with an icebreaker, and we're kind of going to go around and we're each going to say one strength and one growth area. So for me, one of my strengths would be I'm a very welcoming person. I feel like I'm approachable, and something that helps me in my personal life and my work life. Personal life, my friends, they come to me and they feel comfortable talking to me. Same with my sisters. And in my work, obviously, I'm a social worker at the Department of Health and Human Services. So that comes in handy working with families. And how will this help me during the group meeting today? My hope is that you guys would be welcoming with any questions, comments, or concerns you have about any of the information that's presented. And I will do my best to share any answers to the questions you have. And then each of us will also share one area of growth that is needed in either your personal life or work life. And for me, that would be I'm indecisive. And that's something I've been working on for years. And it's getting better, but it's still something that I need to work on both for personal and work life. I have to make tough decisions at work all the time. And obviously in my personal life, personal choices. And can the group help improve this in any way? Yeah, today we're going to decide if we need a new veteran support group. So that's amazing to get your guys' input and see how decisive you are, and it may make me more confident in.
I was just wondering if, although you're starting a new group, if you considered the services that we have at CMH already.
That's a great question. Next time, please, if you would just click the raise hand button, that would be great. But your question, yes, we will cover some of the services that CMH offers. I think that's a great point, and because you guys do offer some great services. So would anyone like to start with the icebreaker, the one strength and one growth area? Tyler?
All right. So one strength, I guess I would say about myself is think I'm pretty good at creating a safe space for people to talk. I try to not be judgmental or shocked when people tell me tough things, in my practice and even in my personal life. And I think that'll help today in the meeting. If there's opposition or from anybody or just hearing everyone's point of view, making sure everyone has that safe space to address their concerns. One area of growth is that I need to work on asking for help, both professionally and maybe in my personal life too. I'm a very independent person, and I like to prove that I can get things done myself, but sometimes you need to lean on other people for help. So I think this group will help with that, because not one person can complete the tasks that we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that'll be good moving forward.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you, Tyler, for sharing. Who would like to go next?
I'll go next.
Okay, thank you, Tara.
So one strength that I guess helps me in my personal and work life is the fact that I'm very ambitious about what I do. And also I come from a veteran background, which is why I'm kind of questioning whether or not we need this. But I do come from a veteran background. My dad was in the military. And one strength. Oh, and this what I guess my knowledge will help me because I can provide you guys with information that maybe you didn't consider if you need that information. And one area of growth, I feel like I can also be pretty indecisive. Um, and yeah, this group can help with that.
Awesome. Yeah, you're right. You might have a lot more insights than this presentation might have, and that's why we invited you here today, just because we really would like to get your opinion on this. So thank you for sharing. Devin, would you like to go?
Yeah, so I think that my one strength is that I'm pretty relatable, or I can relate to others fairly well. And I think that'll help in the group because I think we can kind of all hopefully relate to each other. We're hoping to come to a consensus on whether we need some more like mental health options for veterans. But I also think one of my downsides is that I'm a little too agreeable. I might be a little too easily swayed one way or the other. So maybe that this group will help me improve by hopefully I can learn a little bit more about what we have, what we need, and I can make my decision on that.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. These are all great points, and I hope that this meeting today is able to help you with one of your growth areas. That would be awesome. Does anybody have any questions before we get started with the presentation? Okay, great. So we're going to start by going over some local veteran data. And I pulled from Midland County, Saginaw County, and Bay County. For Midland County, we have a total of 4,965 veterans, which is pretty low compared to Saginaw and Bay County. Saginaw County has 11,146, and Bay County has 7,285. And with they're each males, and some are males, some are females. With males, there is 4,717 in Midland County, and that in itself is almost the entire population of veterans in Midland County. In Saginaw County, males they're 10,240, and in Bay County, 6,722. And females are obviously very low. Midland County 248, Saginaw 906, and Bay County is 563. And then we kind of
having any groups specifically for women versus men, or are you just looking at men? I guess.
Well, we actually haven't gotten that far yet. I think we're just kind of trying to determine if there's a need for one at all, and then if we do think as a group collectively that a group is needed, then we'll kind of break down for more specifics. Because I think it would be really cool to have one directly just for females because there's not as many of them. But thank you, that was a great question. So we did break it up into age ranges as well. So for age 18 to 34, this is the lowest, I would say. There's 390 in Midland, 576 in Saginaw, and 547 in Bay County. And then ages 35 to 54 is 1,231 in Midland, 2,271 in Saginaw, and then 1,862 in Bay County. And then it goes on to ages 55 to 64, which is 787 in Midland, 1,838 in Saginaw, and 1,122 in Bay. And I'm not going to read a lot of the other two statistics, but you can kind of see that age 65 to 74 is, it looks like has the highest population in all three counties. But again, we're just going to determine if a group is needed, and then we'll kind of go on specifics and see if there's like an age range we'd like to target. Does anybody have any questions about the data, about where it was found or anything? I guess I should mention it was found at the Housing Assistance Council from 2018. Yes, Tyler.
That was going to be my question. I saw the date 2018, and I was just making sure, like, so this was the latest, the most recent data that was found.
Yes. So the 2020 census was very similar in terms of like the total populations. And it lined up. I did check that, but it didn't. The census did not have specifics on like the age groups or female or males. So I did use the Housing Assistance Council just because it broke everything up better. But the numbers did seem they lined up with the census, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yes, it does. Thank you.
Of course. Anybody else? No? Okay, we're going to move on then. So we're going to talk about the current veteran resources. And some of the current veteran agencies are the American Legion, Veterans of Foreign Wars, Forgotten Eagles, and then obviously the Midland County Veteran Services Department. They each do some amazing work with our veterans. They get together. They do a lot of like dinners and fundraising. And they're just great organizations, but to my knowledge, they do not have any current support groups that are open to maybe someone who's not a member of those agencies. So are there any current groups being held in Midland County or in any nearby counties like Saginaw or Bay that you guys know of? No? Okay. Well,
CMH in Midland has groups and services for veterans as well, which also begs my question of why we need this in the first place.
okay. Yeah, I mean, CMH, I haven't seen anything specific towards like a veteran support group though on their website that was advertised. But if there is already one at CMH, that's definitely something to consider. Next time though, please raise your hand. That would be great. Devin, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, so as far as I know, I'm only so this would be only about Bay County. As far as we have some like kind of littler groups in the American Legion where some people get together more on their own, but I know we don't really have a lot of mental health support sort of groups like that in Bay County.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Tyler.
I was just going to add that for the Veteran Service Department, in Midland County, we only have support, like one-on-one sort of counseling support in that way. But to my knowledge, we currently don't have any support group among veterans. So there's definitely, it seems like a need, at least in our department.
Okay, yeah. Thank you for sharing. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? No? All right. So we're going to continue on with the current veteran resources. So we're going to talk a little bit about transportation. The two main sources of public transportation that Midland County has is Dial-A-Ride and County Connection. For Dial-A-Ride, their hours of operation are Monday through Friday, 6:30 to 10:30, Saturday 8 to 8, Sunday 8 to 2:30. So that's definitely something to consider, especially with the cost as well. In the service area that it covers when thinking about creating a new group. So the cost for Dial-A-Ride is $2 one way, and then about 75 cents for the disabled or elderly if they qualify. And then Tara, I was going to ask you, did you know anything about CMH passes if they qualify?
So yeah, if you can get a CMH pass, and there's a lot to meet the qualifications. So unfortunately, I don't know a ton, but I do know that it's possible to get these passes. But there are a lot of ways to qualify. And yes, as you mentioned, this disabled and elderly do get that discount. So
Okay, yeah, thank you so much. And then the service area, they only service in the Midland city limits, not the entire county, which could definitely be an issue when looking at, if our members live out in the county, how are they going to get there if they don't have reliable transportation? Does anybody have any questions about Dial-A-Ride? No? All right. So then we're going on to County Connection. Now they do service the entire Midland County area, so they're a little bit more reliable in that aspect. Their hours of operation are Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 11 p.m., Saturday, 6:30 to 6, and then they're closed on Sundays. It's a little more costly. It's $3 one way or $2.50 for the elderly and disabled. Now the thing with public transportation is that it gets you there, but it's not always reliable with getting you there on time. You either have to schedule your bus for probably an hour to 2 hours before you actually need to be somewhere in order to be there on time, and that might be an issue. So a thing that I wanted to bring up was possibly if a group got running, what do you guys think about possibly having the workers transport if need be?
I feel like that can get a little bit unethical. That
Okay.
puts us in a very strange place, I feel, if the workers are the ones doing the transportation. I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea, but maybe we could hire people that would do that for us, but that begs the question of funding. So,
Yeah, no, and I think that's a valid concern. It's definitely something to talk about if the group gets approved. That's definitely just something to talk about in the next meeting. Tyler, did you have any? Yeah.
Yeah, so I was gonna kind of say the opposite a little bit. I definitely think it would be a good idea to have the workers or some sort of like case aid, like part-time case aid, to help with the transportation, just because there might be a need for that. And I know that there's other agencies like foster care. A lot of their workers, they'll transport kids and back and forth.
Yes.
So I know it within the social work realm, it is fairly common
I just feel
to
like that's a
do that.
safety issue at the same time, though.
Tara, can we let Tyler finish and then you can ask your question when he's done?
Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Tyler, continue, please.
Yeah, so I guess to answer that, I can understand where it would be a safety concern. I definitely think we would need to set up some sort of training for the workers, maybe, especially since we're working with adults who these veterans might suffer from PTSD or anxiety or just different, trauma. So that is something that we could talk about further to implement to train our workers in just basic safety, in the vehicle.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea as well. Tara, what were you going to ask?
Well, what kind of vehicle are we thinking here? Do we know? Is it gonna be a car? Is it gonna be a bus? Like, I feel like that kind of weighs a little bit as well. Although I do think training would be a fantastic idea. Again, with the safety issues that are in my brain and all that, it just makes me wonder what kind of vehicles we're looking at. Are they going to be company vehicles? Like what we're thinking there?
Yeah. And again, this is all going to be addressed again if the group gets approved. This will all be like into the detailed plan. But my initial thoughts on this were at the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, we do have state cars. So if we were to get workers coordinated for this group through my agency or even maybe Tyler's, they would have permission to use those vehicles if needed. And we do have a couple of vans. We do have other cars as well that you'd have to sign out beforehand to take. And there's obviously training involved before you can use the cars as well, and insurance and stuff that needs to be provided. But it could be an option. Do you have any other questions?
No, I was just gonna say that I'm not familiar with you said DHS, right?
Mhm.
I'm not super familiar with what you guys have and all that stuff, so that's why I was
Yeah.
wondering. So thank you.
Of course. Devin, I saw your hand up a little bit ago. Did we answer all of your questions or concerns?
Yeah, actually, yeah, Tara had the same exact question as me, and so thank you.
Of course. All right, so we are going to move on then. We're still on current veteran resources, and I just wanted to kind of touch on the current mental health resources. I know Tyler said that a lot of the mental health resources in Midland County is one-on-one, but I know CMH, Tara, is a great agency for counseling services and the Veterans Crisis Hotline. Tara, if you wanted to touch a little more on what you guys do for veterans, that would be awesome.
Currently we do one-on-one services. From what I know, that's what I do is one-on-one services, but I'm just having a hard time wrapping my head around getting them into groups, because a lot of the times working with veterans already, they don't want to talk. It takes a lot to get them to talk. So I'm just curious on what your plan is for that, how you're planning to get them into the group, how are they going to qualify for the group, and how you're going to make sure they get there, because you can sign somebody up for a group, but that's not going to get them to go. Does that make sense? Because they already don't want to talk one-on-one.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think also, so the one-on-one services are great, but with a support group, it's a lot of peer counseling. There's obviously going to be workers there to facilitate, but the hope is that one person, one veteran comes in and they're very open about their experiences and what they've been through and how they feel, and that will encourage other group members to share. It will also encourage them, like to find role models in that group. Hey, this guy has his life together, maybe I can get mine together too. And that way
So
they're not relying.
ensuring that these veterans will, because you're saying your hope is to find one that will talk. So you're basically saying right now there is not really any chance that that could happen, that could be, that you're going to find that one veteran that wants to talk in group. Does that make sense?
No, and that makes a lot of sense too. But I mean, I know that the need for one is also different than the want for one. So that's kind of where Tyler comes in. He works really closely with a lot of veterans, and I know Devin at the Legion, you do too. But reaching out to the clients that they have and seeing, hey, are any of you willing and interested to come to this? Like, is this something you'd be supportive of, and come in and kind of share your experiences to the people that might not be so willing. um but again, that's if the group gets approved today, and then we'll kind of come up on how to recruit for this group, and our transportation services if need be, how they get there, and also, yeah, I know you had questions about how they qualify for the group. That would also be something to discuss in another meeting. Does anybody else have any questions or concerns, comments? No? Okay, awesome. We are moving right along. So, I mean, and we kind of just touched on this too, but if a support group for veterans in Midland County was created, and we're gonna kind of hypothesize just one group here starting out, how many social workers do you think would be needed per one group? What would their roles be? Why are they needed? And should there be any other professionals involved?
I think it would depend on how many workers you, or how many clients you have in a group. Do you know what we're thinking there?
So I'd say the max probably 15, and that's kind of stretching it. I know in Midland, obviously the total population is lower than other counties.
What's the lowest that you're
Yeah,
thinking about going?
the lowest I would say 8.
8 to 15.
Mhm.
So I guess depending on how many people are in this group, I would say anywhere from 2 to 5 social workers.
Okay.
Because we also have to think too that sometimes working with veterans can be very dangerous. So having another person on standby wouldn't be a bad idea, as well as them being trained and all that stuff for safety.
Yeah, that's a really valid concern. I'm glad you brought that up. Devin.
Yeah, so I kind of disagree. I would say like maybe 2. But I guess it depends on if there's going to be, kind of one group meeting, or if maybe there's a second group, like a second group happening on a different day of the week, that sort of thing. But that's a whole different story. But I would say maybe like 2, maybe 3.
Okay. Tyler.
Yeah, I would probably agree with Devin too, because while safety is important, you don't want to overwhelm the group and the members there if there's so many people. And if it's a support group too, you kind of want the veterans to be part of leading the group too. So the social worker's role would mostly just to facilitate, make sure, it kind of stays on topic, I guess. So I personally 5, if there's 15 people at the most and there's 5 workers, to me that seems too much. But I definitely think there should be at least a couple for safety.
Okay, yeah. These are all really valid points. Do you guys think there should be any other professionals involved aside from social workers? I know Tara, you're a trained counselor. Did you have any like opinions on that? Any other professionals that should be involved?
So for me personally, I am doing one-on-one. I guess I don't really know who else would be needed because they keep disagreeing with the numbers that I put out for social workers needed, which is fine. But I guess I wouldn't really know because I only do one-on-one. I guess if you wanted to have a counselor there, sure. I would think that the social workers that you do have need to be trained in trauma and veteran combat, as well as probably hold an MSW, just to make sure they're educated in doing this, because this again can be kind of a rough population. I know you didn't really ask what kind of educational background they need, but I have seen people at the bachelor's level, like, although they have their bachelor's degree, and that's completely fine, there's nothing wrong with that, uh, go very wrong when meeting with veterans, because I feel like they're not trained to the best that they could be. So I feel like they would need to be trauma certified or combat veteran certified. And with that, I think you'd be okay with the 2 that they said. So I'm kind of shifting what I'm thinking from 5 to 2. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I like that you bring up the educational background as well. I think that's also something that's super important. Tyler, yeah.
And to bounce off that too, maybe like 2 social workers would be good, but we could have other professions, like maybe someone in the medical field, a nurse, a doctor, or some sort of physician, just there just in case they're someone like their PTSD is like triggered and something happens on a medical level, like physical level. So just to have
What do you
that support
think
too.
about like interns? Do you think that we could have like interns there, like at the master's level, that they're learning, because we all have our MSWs to be able to work with these people? So, do you think that having a master's level intern would be okay? Because I feel like they're looking for there's the veterans need more people to work with them. So, teaching master's level students to do this, do you think that could work as well? So we can maybe have one intern master's level to help with this.
Um, yeah, and I think that would also be cost effective too. Tyler, I'm sorry, Tara interrupted a little bit, but did you have anything else to add?
No, that was about it.
Okay. So Tara, to answer your question, yeah, I think that interns would be a great idea, like at least one MSW level, just because I mean we're kind of talking about this. I didn't get any data related to like cost to run it. A lot of the times these support groups can be considered kind of a lot of volunteer work. But we do need trained professionals and those do cost money. So I would say having an intern would be a lot of help. Not just like cost wise, but also like to get them into the field like you had mentioned. Does that answer your question? Okay, awesome. Does anybody else have any questions, comments, or concerns about the role of social workers in the support group? No? Okay. So now we're going to talk about how would a support group be beneficial to the veterans in Midland County. So reason number one, the veterans would be able to receive support from their peers who have gone through similar situations and feelings. Reason number two, because of reason number one, the veterans may feel less isolated and therefore decrease depression, anxiety, and PTSD symptoms. Obviously, a support group is not a be all end all. You know, it's not the cure. It's just another form of support that they can rely on to help their mental health. Reason number three, there would be little to no cost for members to attend to receive mental health services, receive mental health support through the peers. I know with like one-on-one counseling, there's a lot of insurance billing, and depending on what insurance you have, mental health care is not cheap. So a support group, although we would have to get it funded for, yes, Tara.
So if you are saying that this is going to cost little to none, how do we plan on paying the people who are involved?
So I know Tyler was looking into some grants that were available for veterans in the area, and that's kind of something that is still in the works. Obviously, it's going to be something more that we will talk about in a later meeting if the support group gets moved through. But for right now, we do have um, some hopes for funding. And because we would only be paying the social workers or whoever else is running it, and then kind of collectively between our agencies will help the kind of coordinate those services. And then usually with support groups, it's just members show up and they get the support they need. So it's basically no cost to them. So it's a free mental health resource at that. It's just they have to get there. That's kind of like another issue that we were talking about earlier. But again, that will be discussed in a later meeting if the support group gets approved. Did that answer your question a little bit? At least I hope.
Yep, it did. Thank you.
Okay. Just because this is just a meeting to get the support group approved or not approved, so I don't have a lot of information yet on how specifically we would fund this. So that way, this is, yeah. So to recap, number three is it would be little to no cost based on compared to one-on-one counseling. Reason number four, the veterans may feel more empowered to work through and solve their own problems, basically developing a problem-solving skill. And this kind of bounces off reason number five, the veterans may act as role models and encourage other members to do better in their own lives. And I'm not saying like they need to solve their own problems all the time or like, you know, to get through their own mental health issues. Obviously not. That's why support groups and one-on-one counseling exists. But just to make them more confident, you know, in problem solving on their own. That way they're not completely leaning on mental health supports. Because the goal is always to get them better until they don't need us anymore. So that's why I think this would be a great resource for them in the community. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns about the five reasons right here or anything they'd like to add? No? Okay. So now we are at the part to where we're going to vote if there is a yes or no for a new veteran support group in Midland County. Based on the information, the data, and the resources that we've gone over today, all of your concerns, You're going to vote a yes or no with a brief answer as to why you voted that way on if a new support group should be created. Before we vote, does anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns about the data we went over? Anything that's vital for your vote? No? Okay. So if you would just click the raise hand button and I'll just call on who wants to go first for voting, that would be awesome. Tara.
So I'm going to go ahead and say no. And it just is because I don't feel as if there's a need for this. There are people in here that have these services available. Although it's not a group, I feel like there's not enough data or people in Midland County to start a group. And not only that, you're saying you don't have an idea for the funding for any of this. And that's kind of that's needed in order to say that you want to start a group. I personally don't feel like you have enough information here to start it. And although I don't think it's a bad idea, I just don't think that we were provided with enough, because personally, you're telling me that you don't know to fund, how we're going to fund this and what that looks like right now, unless I'm misunderstanding. And I think that in order to propose a group, you need to be able to understand where that's coming from and how it's going to be funded. So I'm just going to go ahead and say no, but thank you for sharing and saying there's a need for this.
Yeah, no, I completely get the concerns. Thank you so much for sharing. Tyler.
So I'm going to go ahead and vote yes. I know that there's only about 5,000 people in Midland County who are veterans, and that's less than half of Saginaw County and its neighboring county. But although the population is lower, there's still a population there, and there's still a need, even though it might not be as great of a need as other places. There's still a need. And so I think it'd be really cool to start this group to get the connections between different veterans, and because there's less of them in the county, they might feel more alone. So to show that there's others out there struggling too. So I think it's super exciting, and I'm all for it.
Awesome. That's great, Tyler. Thank you so much. Devin.
So I am also going to agree with Tyler and say yes. I would like to hopefully have another meeting, possibly like before completely starting the group, some more
Yes.
comments and data on costs and stuff like that. But I assume that's what would happen anyway. We would go more into details and stuff. I think this would be really great for Midland County. If it was Bay County, a little different, because like we saw, the numbers are a lot less. But like Tyler said, I think it'd be nice for these people with some of the things going on in their lives from being a veteran to have some support and not feel so alone.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. Tara.
So if this group ends up happening, I'm not against it by any means. I personally would like more information. So if this does end up happening, although I did vote no, I would love to have more information from you, because I do think there's a need, but I'm just curious on why you think it's necessary. I would love to help out, but I'm just at the moment, no. But if there's more information that we can have at a later meeting, I'd love to attend. So
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and vote yes. This meeting was just kind of a preliminary, like, based on this data, do we think there's a need for it? Not a logistical, like, what's the cost? How many people do we need? Who are we paying? Where are we getting the money from? How are we getting people there? We're just kind of considering, the basic population data, the transportation available public wise, as well as, reasons for it, and then listening to all of our different agencies and collaborating that way, to see if there's a need for it. So because this is passed, we're going to go ahead and plan a next meeting. So we voted yes. The group is a go. That's so exciting. Thank you, everybody. We kind of discussed, data, transportation wise, the role of social workers, any other professionals that we may need. And I can't wait for the next meeting. And Tara, I would love for you to come to the next meeting. I really think it's important that our agencies collaborate on this, to make it the best group that we possibly can, as well as, I mean, you had a lot of great concerns that I would love to address. So does anybody have any final thoughts, concerns, or, even suggestions for the next meeting? Tara.
So for the next meeting, I just think that maybe we should figure out how we're getting funded. I know I've already talked about this, but how we're getting funded, all the social workers that we need, who else needs to be involved, how we're getting them there. I think we need actual answers for the next meeting. I'm happy that this group is a go, but we just need more information for next time, I think. But yeah, I'd love to be there, and I appreciate you having me today.
Yeah, of course. So Tyler and I are going to get together and start going over possible grants then, and also meet with like other. We have a lot of Midlands kind of especially in the city, where we have a lot of donors that would be willing to donate to the cause. So that's something we're definitely going to look into. Tyler.
Well, first off, I just want to say thank you for running this group and inviting me here. I think it's going to be great moving forward. I just think maybe the next meeting, what we could do is add maybe a couple of veterans too, and just bring them in on the discussion just to see from their perspective what they would want, or things we might be missing. And then maybe also, if it's possible, get someone in the health profession, a nurse, doctor, physician, just to get another different perspective as well moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. The veterans are really going to have, like you said, a better idea of what they want. Like, how many social workers do they feel they need? Do they want a nurse there? Where would they like, we can do, another great idea for the next meeting is we can kind of come up with a survey to hand out for them too. Obviously have some veterans representatives there, but we can create a survey to hand out to, the population at the American Legion, and then the department, and even maybe CMH for some of your clients, Tara, to kind of fill out a questionnaire of, what time, what's the best location, do they have transportation, would they need it, etc., stuff like that. Does that sound like an okay idea as well?
I like
Yeah.
that, and I think that that's a really great idea, Tyler, because that will eliminate the question of whether or not veterans will actually attend and actually speak and use it in the form of a support group. So I just wanted to say that's a really good idea. I like what Tyler said. So
Yeah, I agree. Obviously we have to have members to do the group, so I agree. I mean, in the survey it was, would you want this? Devin, did you have anything to add?
No, yeah, I agree with Tyler a lot. I think having a couple veterans there would be a really great idea. Like you were saying, like, okay, what do you think they would need as far as transportation? How many social workers and stuff like that? Yeah, I think that's great.
Okay, that's awesome. So I will go ahead and coordinate with Tyler and get together an agenda for the next meeting, as well as a date and time. I'll probably also create a little like Google questionnaire to see what times work best for you guys, as well as get some recruits for the veteran representation and see what time works best for them as well. What do you guys think about doing this in person next time, or would you prefer online? Devin.
I think I would be okay with doing it online, but I might prefer it a little bit more to be in person, especially if we're going to have a couple of veterans with us. It would be nice to kind of maybe even have like a little gathering ahead of time or something, or a little, meeting afterward, just to talk to them a little bit.
Yeah. Tara.
I think that it would go well either way. I think that we could make it work either way, but my only concern is the veterans. As we talked about earlier, some of them do have a need for transportation, so we either need to be able to pick the ones that do have transportation, or just do it online, because I feel like a lot of the veterans that need to be in this group don't have the means of transportation to get there. And as we mentioned about the issues with Dial-A-Ride and the other ride services, it could be really difficult to get there, if that makes sense, because
Yeah.
they won't be on time and all that stuff, or it's really difficult to be on time. So I'm gonna say online. I think online would probably be the most beneficial.
Okay. Thank you for your input. I really appreciate that. That's something to take into consideration. Tyler.
I'm fine with whatever. I love the face-to-face connections, building with people, that relationship, but I understand like accessibility and just if we're all able to get there on time. So yeah, whatever works for me.
Okay, awesome. I will take all this into consideration, and Tyler, I will get with you at a later date. But thank you so much, everybody, for participating and joining me today. It was a great meeting. I felt like we really completed our goal here today. So thank you so much, and I hope you guys have a great night.
Thank you.